This is Reuters Today. Coming up, the US inflames the viral video that's taking North Korea by storm. And watch your back, Murdoch. There's an old rival in town. But first, fancy a job at RBS? Investment head John Huracan resigns as the bank braces itself for LIBOR rigging punishment. Maybe not an ideal time to start, though, as CEO Stephen Hester warns it'll be a miserable day, with fines of between £400 and £500 million pounds on the cards for its role in interest rate manipulation. Or perhaps you'd prefer a stake in the bank for free. The FT reporting today that UK Business Secretary Vince Cable wants to give away shares in the part nationalised bank to the public. The idea is voters will be able to share in profits above a certain level. So watch out, Rupert Murdoch. Long-time rival John Malone strikes a £10 billion deal for Virgin Media, the UK's second biggest TV provider. Liberty Global's move to buy the British cable group pits him directly against Murdoch, whose B-Sky B is currently Britain's leading pay TV service. Some positive news for Britain's richest man. ArcelorMittal chief Lakshmi Mittal says things will get better this year after a wretched 2012. The world's biggest steelmaker posting a net loss for the year after writing down the value of its European steel business. But it expects higher steel shipments this year and is forecasting core profits to rise. Let's talk about the macro picture, in particular some of the FX movements now. I'm joined by Adam Cole, Head of Foreign Exchange Strategy, RBC Capital Markets. Morning to you, Adam. Lots weighing on sterling this morning. Lots of reasons to be negative. I guess they haven't changed. The soft data, political risk. Got the OECD report on the UK economy coming out later on.
I think it's part of the trend which has been in place really since the turn of the year, that people seem to have a whole string of reasons rather than one particular reason to be negative on sterling. They're all, I think, open to question to a degree, but put together it's made sterling onto performance one of the sustained trends of the year, and nothing particularly new today to add to that, but the looming Bank of England decision, the commentary from Carney tomorrow, and keeping all of those factors in focus.
So where's cable heading?
I think cable probably bottoms out relatively early, and more importantly, I think looked at via euro sterling, we think for various reasons euro sterling is probably forming a top around these levels from both the sterling negative side and the positive side for the euro. So if I wanted to play a positive contrarian view on sterling, buying it against the euro I think is probably the way I'd do it now.
How high does euro dollar go now?
I think we probably make highs above the recent highs in the high 130s, but I doubt we'll breach 140. So I think if one looks at what's really driven the rally in the euro and some of the direct measures of the risk premia that have been compressing as the euro has been rallying, in many respects we're reaching natural limits for some of those risk premia. And I think for that reason alone, we probably get into a slightly more two-way market in the high 130s. So we think we're in the tail end of the rally at these kind of levels.
All right, and can't let you go without talking about the yen. Should we be surprised by this push through 94?
No, and I wouldn't fight it at the moment. I think if you stand back and look at what it needs in terms of policy easing from the Bank of Japan to justify the move that we've seen in dollar yen, it's actually quite hard to make the case for it being sustained. But dollar yen, for me at the moment, is all about momentum, and the trend is becoming self-reinforcing. And to that extent, I don't think you should try and fight it. If there's going to be a watershed, then perhaps at the time at which you get the personnel changes at the BOJ, the market focus may shift a little to delivery of policy rather than just delivery of rhetoric, which is really all we have so far. But at the moment, I think it's the trend is becoming self-feeding, and I wouldn't fight it.
OK, Adam, thanks a lot. Staying with Asia, Indonesia has been one of the world's investment hotspots, but rising political risk is now posing a threat. Tara Joseph reports.
Growing worries for Western firms. Indonesia has been posting eye-popping growth rates above 6%. But in the run-up to elections next year, there are some troubling signs of rising economic nationalism and cronyism at the top. In the last few weeks alone, a senior official has called for U.S. energy group ExxonMobil to replace its local boss, fueling concerns about government interference. Chevron also reportedly warning it may slash investment in Indonesia if conditions fail to improve. And the U.S. has lodged a complaint with the WTO against Indonesia's import restrictions. Now, Indonesia is still aiming for a 23% rise in foreign direct investment after a record set last year, but the government may have to prove it can still woo investors.
A Chinese Navy ship has been caught pointing a type of radar normally used to aim weapons at a Japanese naval vessel. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has called the incident regrettable and dangerous. Hopes of a thaw between the two countries had been rising recently since tensions began in September when Tokyo nationalized a chain of rocky uninhabited isles in the East China Sea. And from narrowly averted crisis to the stuff of nightmares, New York under missile attack is a remote dream for impoverished North Korea, but its latest propaganda video shows exactly that, the surreal dream scenes of a U.S. city in flames as seen from a fictional shuttle are fast becoming a viral hit as North Korea prepares for third nuclear test. That is it for now. I'll leave you with Pablo Picasso's golden muse, Marie-Thérèse Walter. The portrait sold for £28.8 million at Sotheby's in London. Despite economic woes, prices for the most sought-after works have soared in recent years as collectors from China, Russia and the Middle East gain ever more influence. That's it. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.